YouTube. I'm doing this video for the third time, fourth time, I guess. But I just want to use a word of caution. So yeah, that's the idea of trying to judge teams like that. That's the rabbit hole people fall into. Look, people know the game the way they understand the game, but the bad habit that people are getting into now are trying to judge teams by their number of all NBA, all stars. Again, I covered this on my podcast. The whole, but he had Pippen, as if Scottie Pippen covered the litany of holes on a championship team. It was a lot more than that. It's not serving Pippen well. It's not serving anybody well to continue to have that type of conversation. But again, this is what winds up happening. So, my foray onto Go James Kingdom last night was pretty funny. It was pretty fun. As we know, when the exposer catches the heat, he uses the mute button. And again, like I said, they come to my podcast. I'm not trying to act like my podcast is all built up, but I don't use the mute button like that. I've only had to use it a couple of times. And obviously, when Lamont pulls up, he's a guy that can go on. He can go make soliloquies for 20, 30 minutes if you don't stop him. So, but other than that, I don't do that. I don't mute people when they make good points because I try to have basketball conversations. So we're gonna have one today. We're gonna have one the next time Exposer or anybody else pulls up because that's what I do. Again. Thinking teams, you can judge teams by all-stars and all NBA. That's where it just became easy because you can use that logic train against them. And I did that. And I can do that all day. Saying teams are bad because they didn't have a certain amount of... I've seen great teams with no all-stars. Look at the 04. I don't think anybody made the all-star team on the 04 Pistons. And they mollywopped a team with 4 first ballot Hall of Famers. Yeah, 2 of them were washed up. Let's keep it a stack. But Shaq and Kobe were the 2 best players in the world in 2004. Let's keep it 100. 2 of the top 5 at the very worst. If you don't think Kobe and Shaq were top 5 players in 2004, you're kidding yourself. And again, I throw this logic back at LeBron fans. I throw this logic back at all these guys that want to come back and retroactively judge teams and not really look into what a great team really was or what the components was. Really, in a certain era, you weren't going to get with so many 20-point scorers on the team. You weren't going to get with so many guys that dropped 25 on the team because the pace, everything was different in its day and age. And so when you retroactively look at teams, you're going to put yourself in a bad predicament, making bad faith arguments that you can't really support. And when the logic is reversed, you're going to look foolish. Again, you can go all over the map. At the end of the day, the results matter. I say this. The results matter. Stop making excuses. Stop making excuses. Jordan had 1 all-star. He never had more than 1 all-star. That was Scottie Pippen. Nobody else made an all-star with him. Yes, Horace and BJ made all-stars the year he retired because they wanted to vote for Jordan. Jordan was that popular. BJ also won an all-star starter in 1994. We all know this. But he was the guy at guard. Pretty much, nobody was going to vote for Pete Myers. So at the end of the day, you know, be careful how you judge these teams, fellas. Be careful how you judge these teams, because you really got to look into the elements of what makes a team. Every team needs rebounds. They need defenders. You know, that's the next thing people do. They judge defenders by how many All-NBA defense and how much defensive accolades. A team can play great defense without any All-NBA defenders, as we know. As the bad boy Pistons basically morphed themselves from '88 into the '90s into the bad boys, a team that was stagnant defensively. They did that to not only combat with Jordan, but combat with the Celtics. They were never going to beat the Celtics without being a great defensive team.
Are you still recording?
Yes. They were never going to beat the Celtics without being a great defensive team. And that's what they did. They became a great defensive team. It's all, you know. So as we get along, you know, Dumars, we all know that Dennis Rodman winning the back-to-back defensive player of the year. It's so funny, right? Okay, Dennis Rodman won in '90 and he won again in '91. I mean, what are you doing? How are you judging it? At the end of the day, it's why I say one guy, when it comes to Jordan and LeBron, one guy came up with results. The other guy and his fan base, they come up with excuses. Nothing but excuses. And, you know, at the end of the day, you play to win. If you didn't win, how much complaining and how much reasoning can you do behind it? Win. Just win. I don't sit there and be like, oh well, it wasn't fair that they did. You know, that's what happens. KD goes to the Warriors in 2016, and everybody screams about how unfair it was. Yeah. Everybody screams about how unfair it is. You know, so at the end of the day, man, you play to win. You play to win. I don't sit there with the KD thing. I don't, you know, KD did what was fair. He went, and again, he didn't give him no discount. He got his full 20-something million to go to Golden State in 2016. That was a marketable contract for himself. He didn't give a pay cut to go to Golden State. Golden State had the money available to sign him. So how was it unfair? In what way? It's too much of that going on, man. It's too many excuses and too many. Just go out there and play it. What I think I know, 5-on-5, anything can happen. Build the best team you can build. Build the best team you can build. We talk about how good Kyrie was and wasn't, and how good Pippen was and wasn't. Let's go out there and win. There's a reason why the Bulls could sustain a bad series by Pippen offensively. That's because he played great defense. Because again, telling me Pippen was a great defender does not make the Bulls a great defensive team. Having a disciplined, well-coached unit where 5 guys know their role, defend their position. Scottie couldn't guard everybody. Scottie didn't knock people up and take them out of the game. He played his role, as did Jordan, as did Grant, as did Rodman when he came, as did whatever lunch pail center they came when they had the second three-peat or the first three-peat. It was Scott Williams and Stacey King and Bill Cartwright. Second three-peat, you got Bill Wennington. Was Joe Klein was there one year? I mean, my God, the list of scrubs, and I'm just saying that relatively. Nobody was really a scrub. They were in the NBA, but when you're going up against all-time great centers, they pale in comparison. That's the way it goes. And no one said, he didn't sit there and say, get me one of these superstar centers. He didn't need it. That's the way Jordan felt. But LeBron got everybody you could under the sun. And then after the fact comes the excuses. Leave it running. And after the fact, you just come up with excuses. You come up with also why this and it. Man, listen. Listen, it is what it is, man. These conversations, they're going to continue to go the way they go. I have fun having them. I have fun exposing the exposers. Because like I said, the invitation is open to anybody that think I don't know ball or whatever. Look, I don't know everything. I can admit it. I make podcasts and I learn a lot on my own podcast sometimes. I pull up the other platform. I pull up the other platforms and I learn. We all can learn. Nobody knows everything, but you come with a faulty premise. You start judging teams by the amount of all-stars. I mean, my God. 4 all-stars on the Atlanta Hawks back in 15 or 16. My God, was that team overrated. They won 60 games. That's probably why they got the all-star. Because they were playing good unit basketball. But, I mean, that team was not built to go all the way. It just weren't. And again, you got to look at the fabric of a team. You know, yeah, 2-man games are great. The reason why the Bulls were so dominant, because they had the best 2-man game in the league. But they also had great coaching, great defense. They also had players who played bit roles and knew how to step up in their roles. They weren't that because they had 7 dominant defenders. They weren't that because, the players, you took flawed players and made a great whole. They were beatable. I thought they were beatable. End of the day, that system and Jordan. That's what it is, the system and then Jordan. LeBron has never been that level of dominance because, number one, he never submitted himself into a system. He never played both sides of the ball equally. There's a lot of reasons, man. There's a lot of reasons. I don't want to get into bashing LeBron because I just want to bash the thought process. But again, the need to make excuses for LeBron's lack of or less success than Michael Jordan has led to these type of conversations. And like I said, that's just my thoughts on it. Like I said, watch the rabbit hole you go down when you start judging teams by teammates and just trying to add players and things like that and look at it points per game and accolades. It doesn't work like that, man. It doesn't work like that. Just you can have the defensive player of the year. I can name a team. You can have a defensive player of the year, but it could be a team that plays way better defense without any all defensive players. Just add up defensive players and think that's the sum of the defense. That's what a lot of people do. I don't know the people I'm talking about know better than this. Of course they do. Of course, you can't have a bunch of bad defenders and play dominant defense, but you can have a bunch of bad players, so quote unquote bad defensive players, if you coach them well, if the rebounding, if the discipline is there, and still have a good defense because it's about the scheme. Team defense is about scheme. Those with an elite scheme can play great defense as a team. Those with great defensive tools, great defensive weaponry. Again, look, you wound up with the Bulls. You wound up with Harper, who was a great athlete, declining physically, but what he had, he could give you on defense. Jordan, Pippen, Rodman, insert center. Yeah, that was a stifling team. We got to realize though, Rodman played his way to the bench a lot. They started starting Kukoc at power forward, a weak defender. Kukoc, everybody knows Kukoc was a weak defender, but you still were able to withstand him. You still were able to withstand Scotty's back injury because the system was in place. Jordan was slowing down on defense. And when it came down to it, they were not 5 individually great defenders. They weren't. They weren't like 5 guys in their prime just taking everybody out the game. No, what they did was they schemed it well. This is why the Utah Jazz scored 54 points in that game. The Bulls were just hitting on all cylinders one night on defense. And the Jazz were off. Combination of them being off and the Bulls being on defensively led to a smothering. It's the way basketball works sometimes. So yeah, I'm gonna end it here. But like I said, man, watch that rabbit hole, guys, because you come with that simplistic shit. I can easily break it down, and that's why the exposer got exposed last night. But like I said, Johnny, if you see this, the door's always open. We can always have a good basketball conversation. That's what I'm all about. Peace.